Hello, and welcome back to Conversations with Karen and Kat, the podcast where we connect powerful change makers, visionaries, and everyday heroes who are shaping culture and community. I'm Karen Scott Green.
And I'm Kat Hardrick.
And we are welcoming back our brother, John Harris, also known as Brother Baruti.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Brother Baruti, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Brother Baruti is the founder and architect of Mastering Your Moments, LLC. He brings more than 30 years of leadership experience spanning public service, nonprofit leadership, youth development, martial arts instruction. My kids went to his dojo, coaching, speaking, and organizational consulting. At the center of his work is one powerful idea. Lasting transformation happens when we address the conflicts influencing our choices. Through his Mastering Your Moments framework, Baruti helps people understand not just what we do, but why we make the choices we make. Thank you and welcome again to Conversations with Karen and Kat. So, we know John. Who is Brother Baruti and what experiences have shaped this man and the leader that you are today?
That's a great question. And I have to say thank you to both you and Kat for having me back again. It's been a minute. I was trying to sit and think about how long it'd been. I think it's probably about 3 years, maybe.
I think you were on the first year.
Yeah.
Well, so we started in 22. Wow.
There you go. Yeah. So for those who don't know me, of course, I am John Harris, also known as Baruti Muenda Meriamen. I'm an author, leadership strategist, speaker, entrepreneur, and someone who has spent a significant part of my professional and community life working with people and organizations. As was mentioned, I'm the founder of Mastering Your Moments, which is the body of work that really brings together much of what I've learned and continue to explore around conflict, influence, choice, leadership, and transformation. My professional journey has taken me through corporate leadership, entrepreneurship, education, nonprofit leadership, community service, and work with veterans and military families. And I've also got to spend many years working with young people through martial arts, education, mentoring, and community engagement. And I think all of those experiences have contributed to the questions I find myself asking today. How do people respond when they're faced with difficult moments? What influences the choices we make? How do leaders affect the people and cultures around them? And how do we become more intentional about what we do with the moments we're given? Mm-hmm. You know, while I wear several hats, Mastering Your Moments has really become the place where those experiences and questions come together.
Okay. So was there a particular incident where you realized that conflict resolution and decision-making would be a central part of the work that you're doing?
I can tell you that certainly when I had my dojang, mm-hmm. and I got to work with so many amazing children, primarily as students, that what I recognized somewhere in the midst of it was that, we were teaching more than how to defend yourself physically, that the issues transcended beyond that it was something deeper that was happening. And here's the thing, because I worked with so many different children, what you discover is that no two children are exactly alike.
Right.
So in teaching them techniques, blocks, punches, kicks, etc., you're giving them, yes, valid, usable skills in a situation where they would have to defend themselves. But the issue at the root of it is, how do I deal with conflict?
Mm.
How do I respond to that? And in dealing with the different children, one of the things that jumped out at me was, you have some children, you look at them and I mean, they are like super aggressive. I mean, you teach them a technique. I mean, they go home, they work on the thing, they come back. It's like they're ready to test for their black belt, right? Then you have some kids where, you know, it takes them a longer time to process it.
Yes.
The problem is, Karen and Kat, is that these kids have to go to school the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And so the situations and the circumstances that they're facing are going to require that they have an understanding of what's really happening and the choices that they're going to have to make in addressing it. Now, that's only really part of it, because I also got to know the parents.
Yes.
And I got to work with the parents. Many of them were my students also, right? But what I discovered was that at the root of what both parents and the children were dealing with is an understanding of conflict resolution, and not just conflict in terms of the physical battles or the one-on-one engagements, but probably more importantly, what's happening on the inside.
Right.
And the conflict that they're struggling with internally, impacting relationships, impacting work and employment, impacting their careers, certainly for the kids, impacting their development in many cases. So it was probably in there, I'm positioning it that way because probably about 3 months ago, as I'm continuously digging, I was taken way back to a job I had where I worked for the Attorney General's office and I was a mediator. It was one of the very first jobs I had back in New York City. And I mean, I love that job, but what was I doing? I was assisting people at addressing conflict that they had little to no control over the outcome. So it was a resource. So it started a long time ago. And it's I think in the Dojang, it took shape and form. You know, when I was assigned my name, I think it took on an even greater level of advancement, and it's continuing to grow and expand today.
What do you think with martial arts? People, what is the misconception people have when it comes to martial arts? Because I think people think it's just, hey, I want to learn how to fight. But what are the skills that you really are getting from that, in addition to like self-defense and protecting yourself, especially for women? But
sure.
What are some of them? Go ahead.
So the easiest way to respond to that is to refer directly to something that our students had to recite every day. And Karen, I'm sure you heard this, you know, they had to say a pledge, my promise to always do my best and never give up, to obey my parents and teachers, to tell the truth and honor my word, to always be polite, to never misuse what I learn in class. And then the principles of the martial art form of Choi Kwang Do: humility, integrity, gentleness, perseverance, self-control, and an unbreakable spirit. So if there is a misconception, it is that martial arts is designed to help you deal with outward battles. Martial arts is about you, the inner person.
Okay.
And who you are becoming in and through it. It's one of the reasons I would say, I mean, I didn't take martial arts as a kid. And I mean, I started because my son was doing it. And, but I think it should be like required education.
It sounds like it should. We need it as grown folks to deal with mediation and conflict.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My kids did it for, like Raymond did it. My youngest started when he was either 3 or 4. He was in preschool and did that up through
Tiny Tigers.
Yeah, he did that up through, I think, maybe like his freshman year of high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then he was just like, Mom, I'm done. I'm done.
Right.
But it was a really good tool for self-discipline. And it would be funny because sometimes at like 6 or 7, he would be like the highest ranking member, the highest ranking student in the dojo for like a particular class.
That's
and
right.
so as the highest ranking student, all the other students would have to bow to him.
Yes.
He got to lead the pledge, and
Yes.
that they say at the beginning, like John was saying. So, and it taught that discipline and the respect that even though he was the youngest in the class in several sessions, he would be the highest ranking member, and so a student, and they would have to give deference to him as that highest ranking member. So
that's right.
So it was a very good discipline for them, and my guys stayed in the discipline that John was doing until they both got their black belts. Well,
right.
They stayed on for a little bit further than that, but they both got black belts in actually in Chi and Cho.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
What I always ask people this question: what belt do you think most students stop at?
Probably white belt.
A little higher. Typically they get the yellow belt.
Brown, yellow?
No, yellow.
Yeah, because brown's pretty high.
Yeah,
brown's pretty high, actually.
Most students leave by yellow belt. But to your point, Karen, and just to really build on that, no matter the age of the student, once you become a black belt, you are addressed as Mr. or Miss or Mrs., no matter your age. And any student in the dojang addressing you, no matter what their age is, they have to address you as Mr. or Ms. As part of the show of respect.
So it's a 6 or 7 year old.
Which you could be. You could be 6 and have become a black belt.
Mm-hmm. If you earned it, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it was a great time for them, and it was a very good discipline, and it taught them about respect and order and process, and understanding that it takes several years to get to the level where you're a black belt, and that's how much discipline that it takes to continually be going to practice, to continually be going into that dojo to learn your craft, and the testing, because you're testing at every level. And before you're testing for a belt, you're having intermediate testing in between.
That's
so right. You have to be, anyone who gets up to that level of a black belt, that they've put in years of discipline and hard work and training.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how does this training translate over into leadership development with us adults, Brother Baruti?
Well, that's a good question. In terms of the martial arts aspect of it, I mean, obviously, if we're talking about martial arts, adults go through the same level of training. I think to the larger issue when it comes to a conversation about conflict, as adults, we deal with grown-up conflict, right? I mean, which all that really means is that we've lived longer than the kids. So we just have more stuff in our bag that we're dealing with than they do. But what that translates into is, how do I show up in my relationships, whether they be personal or professional? What type of an employee am I? If I am employed, what are my responses like when I feel disrespected, or if I feel like I didn't get my way, or if I feel challenged in some way, shape, or form that goes against what I have come to believe or to identify as the way that I'm supposed to be treated and the way that I interpret things that happen within my life, right? So, as an example, if I can share an example.
Absolutely.
Suppose I walk into a room and somebody I know walks right past me without speaking. What actually happened? They walked past me without speaking, right? That's the observable event. But almost immediately, I may begin assigning meaning to it. They ignored me. They're disrespecting me. They're angry with me. And maybe I'm right. But there are other possibilities. Maybe they didn't see me. Maybe they were distracted. Maybe they're dealing with something I know absolutely nothing about. The point isn't that I should distrust my interpretation or pretend disrespect or the ignoring didn't happen. The point is, and when we talk about leadership, this is very important, is recognizing that what I did in that situation is I made an interpretation. And that interpretation can influence how I feel, how I respond, the choice I make, and ultimately what happens next. So one of the questions that I encourage people to ask, you young or adult, is what actually happened and what meaning did I assign to what happened? Because that little bit of awareness can sometimes completely change what happens next. And for leaders, that's critical.
Right.
Right. I mean, you think about it. If you're someone in public office, right? I mean, you know, the number of different types of interactions that take place, the words that are said, the tone attached to them, the body language, you name it, right? That interpretation really ties directly to, in part, the way that you handle and address conflict within your own life and the way that you handle it and addressing it with other people.
Does that with your organization? I'm sorry. With your organization, you help leaders with this whole process, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the thing is that most people, when they think of kind of like you alluded to initially when we were talking about martial arts, right? People think, I mean, that's where the focus is, right?
Do it, brother.
Most people, when they hear a reference to conflict resolution, their tendency is to simply think, you know, well, I just need to ignore it, or if I can get better at ignoring the conflict or acting like it didn't happen, or, you know, simply deferring to what the other person is saying or thinking, that I am somehow improving. Transfer that into the workplace. And you have organizations that are in many ways thriving, successful. We ain't throwing no shade at anybody. But within the inner workings, within those interpersonal relationships, there is conflict that exists that is not being addressed because it's not being viewed as conflict in the mastering your moments sense.
And there's a saying at the center of your work: every moment matters, every choice resonates. Is that where that comes from?
Yes. Every moment matters, every choice resonates. And what that speaks to, you know, in the name of the company, Mastering Your Moments. Every moment matters. Now, does that mean that we stay in a constant state of monitoring moments? No. But we become aware of the fact that moments are actually defining our actions. And when you're not aware of the driver behind or within those moments, whether they be cultural, whether they be family oriented, ethnic, it doesn't matter. When you're not biological, right? Because there's phenotype and genotype, right? I mean, there are a number of variables that go into who we are as individuals. And our responses to conflict, in many instances, have been groomed within us, and we're not even aware of it. So we can desire to respond a certain way, but it's really not in us to respond that way. Every moment matters, and every choice resonates, vibrates, continues, has a ripple effect into the future. And so by becoming aware of my choices, becoming more intentional about the way that I make decisions, what I do is I position myself to make better choices, and better is individual.
Yeah,
right?
It's relative.
That's right.
Subjective. So one, I heard you say, what I'm thinking, are you basically saying like it's a learned behavior? First of all, like if it's not deposited in you to pause before something come out of your mouth, like think before you say something. Just because it comes up in your head doesn't mean it needs to come out of your mouth.
Absolutely.
I think about as a mentor with the school system, before the end of the year, the student was just fed up with being bullied and whatnot, and then they got into a fight, and at the end of the school year, so the damage is done. I mean, the fight was just terrible. And it's like the student was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. But
now the thing is done.
You can't unring that bell, right? So how can we, because we talk to them about consequences, like you lay your hands on somebody, we're in a world now that, this is some really serious stuff. This isn't 50 years ago where people can just break it up and go in your corner and everybody talk to your parents. Like people are going to jail and things are happening. How do you see your program aligning with our school systems, even in corporate America, to help really emphasize that break? Because that's a split second that you have to say, I'm either going to control myself or my actions are going to give me a consequence that it just may not be a good outlook.
Sure.
But John, before you answer that, I'm also thinking along the same line as Kat, and you could probably answer this together, is we deal with a lot of children that have had adverse childhood experiences, and even adults who've had these experiences, and they're carrying it on, and it formulates how they respond to stimuli, how they respond to any given situation. How does your work help with that? Or how does your work with those types of persons who deal with
untreated trauma?
Yes, untreated trauma.
So, oh man, I love you too. I'm telling you. So, one of the things that we have to do is we've got to stop looking at everybody as being the same.
True.
Now, I'm saying that, and trust me, I understand that when it comes to education, we don't necessarily have the resources to put into specific silos for every variant type of personality or degree of issue or challenge that a person is dealing with, but we can change the starting point. By that, what I mean is we've got to start with an understanding that every child that's coming in through these doors is coming from a completely different situation.
Yes.
So therefore, the foundation of learning has got to start with some understandings about choices and acknowledgement of some of these variables. Like you mentioned trauma, right? Trauma, if you have a child who's grown up in a protected, safe environment, 3 meals a day, clean clothes every day, extracurricular activities, both parents in the home, stable environment, right? That child has been traumatized.
Okay, you're gonna have to break that one down.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Because trauma is trauma.
Okay.
Trauma, you can traumatically affect someone in a positive way.
Okay, you're gonna have to break that one down for me.
Your actions can have an effect on someone that brings about positive results from them. They can be traumatized in that way. This is really my point in all of it. That same child that grew up in that environment goes to school and possibly has an attitude where they expect everything to be given to them.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
That child's been traumatized.
Right. You're right.
You have a child, like somebody like me who grew up in dealing with poverty and different challenges, and others that we know, right? Others deal with all types of neglect and abuse that takes place. They're traumatized.
Yeah.
When they come into the school environment, they have a mindset of how they're going to respond to conflict. So you have all of these personalities falling into this one place where the expectation is one particular outcome, but no one has spent the time talking about here's what you're likely going to experience, or here's what you might be thinking as we go through this, or tell me something that allows me to see you more clearly so that I understand. Whenever I hear a story about a kid that was being bullied until he snapped, that just drives me.
It breaks your heart. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's something where a few conversations.
I was just about to say, how many intervening situations could have happened that could have derailed that from the tragedy from happening.
Well, but here's
or early intervention from an earlier state. So when that happens, the person who has been bullied knows how to react, and then the person bullying knows not to bully. Like, am I saying that right? Like, the earlier
I think we're all saying the same thing. Like, there could have been. There's so many other avenues that could have happened before we get to a tragedy. The bully there could have been interventions with the bully so that the bully is not bullying, and they learn that is not acceptable behavior, and that you don't treat people this way. And then for the child that was bullied, for adults to intervene and to make the school safe for them, or wherever that place is, make that safe for them. So I think we're saying the same
levels.
Thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there may have been interventions.
Mm-hmm.
But what were those interventions?
Right.
What kind of conversations were being had? Are we having conversations that are more about simply getting this young person to fall in line so that, they can kind of continue to march through the process like everybody else?
Right.
Or are we addressing what possibly is at the root of the issue for
the bullying, of
everybody?
People. Absolutely.
So we walk a fine line, right? I'm guilty of this. How do we as parents help our children learn how to solve problems without solving everything for them? I'm a Miss Fix It. I'm a Mama Fix It. And I own it. How do we teach the skill for our children, and then them teaching their children to solve their problems without us stepping in and being the mama fix it?
How do we step back, lay hands off?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
So it starts with some acknowledgments within yourself. How do you, if we're talking about conflict, right?
Yeah.
How do you deal with conflict? And I'm being rhetorical in the statement.
Gotcha. Understood.
How do you deal with conflict? How do you handle being disrespected? What do you do when you feel like you're being ignored?
So
what's the behavior that you've modeled in front of your child way before the escalation is taking place, right? Because once we're in escalation stage, it's a whole different ballgame that we're dealing with, right? But what's the behavior that you have mirrored for them? Because our kids, man, they see everything we do.
They're sponges.
We think they don't see, but they're observing all day long.
And there are so many other things that are affecting them from an impression standpoint outside of the safe bounds of our home. So to me, as a parent, if I'm having a conversation with my child, and to an extent it's going to depend on the age, but I've got to be willing to be transparent.
Okay.
Maybe you ask your child, how do you think I would handle that in that same situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rather than telling them how to handle it.
Yeah. If mommy or daddy was being in a situation where they were being bullied, because guess what? You have people that are being bullied in the workplace too.
Yes.
It won't just happen in the
they do. Right? They do. Remember, we were at a forum. A dude was talking about being bullied in his own community. Remember, Karen was at that forum. Go ahead.
Yes. Yep.
So how do you think I would handle that? What do you have you seen me ever in that situation? How do you think I deal with disrespect? What do you think my response is? Because our children are, the product of the biology, the environment, the experience that they have in the next second is going to factor into how they may view something or how they may respond to a particular situation.
So do you speak about that? So tell us a little bit about your book, Mastering the ABCs of Conflict Resolution.
And then when you do that, because it's a series, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the fact that you have a series of books on conflict resolution. So walk us through into where you are right now.
Okay. What I got to acknowledge first is when we got together 3+ years ago, the first book was on. I had stuff written down, but a whole lot of it was still in my head. And, so it officially, the first book actually released in 2025, April of 2025. And that was Mastering the ABCs of Conflict Resolution, Empowering Today's Generation of Youth, Parents, and Community Leaders. And that book really represents where the journey began, right? I used the alphabet as just a practical framework for exploring conflict resolution concepts through 3 perspectives: the student, the parent, and the leader, right? The objective was never simply to tell young people to make better choices. And that's what I was thinking of earlier. A lot of times when people hear conflict resolution, that's what they think: make better choices.
Right.
Okay.
How do I make a better choice? What is a better choice? What does that look like?
Right.
So what's that decision tree?
Right. So it was to recognize that young people exist within an ecosystem, and the adults around them also have a responsibility for teaching, modeling, and reinforcing constructive ways of dealing with conflict. So typically, people that, parents will buy my books and I'll tell them, well, what I want you to do is, I really want you to go through it with your child.
Right.
I want you to go through it with them. And it's written, so it's not meant to have you have to pull out your dictionary and look up a bunch of words. No, it's not. That's not the approach. It's literally using the ABCs, right? The second book, Mastering the ABCs of Conflict Resolution, Practical Tools for Adults in Relationships, Work, and Life. Now, with that book, the audience and the inquiry both mature. We're looking at conflict in adult relationships, workplaces, leadership, families, and everyday life. But we're also moving more inward, right? Examining things like acknowledgement, empathy, assumption, emotional responses, and the choices we make while we're inside of the conflict itself. That book, and it wasn't planned, actually released on the same day this year. So,
wow.
And when I tell you, it was, I couldn't have planned it if I wanted to. I mean, I was ready to release it. And then I saw something and didn't like it. So I pulled it back. And the day it released was the same day that the first book released, which was really pretty phenomenal.
Yes.
The third book is Beyond Outcomes, the hidden forces behind the choices that define us. And that's where the inquiry moves even farther upstream, right? Because instead of looking only at the outcome and saying that was a good decision or that was a bad decision, Beyond Outcomes asks, what shaped the person who made that choice? And so it explores the role of context, genetics, environment, conditioning, identity, relationships, experience, and other influences that actually can shape how we interpret situations and the choices we perceive as available to us. Because that's the thing. Every choice matters. Every moment matters, right? In moments, we are making choices based on what we believe is actually available to us as a choice. Quick story. I was at an event a couple of weeks ago. I was having a conversation with a young lady. She's 5 years from retirement in the county that she works in. We were talking, and she says to me, I got 5 years left, John, and, if I didn't have to do it, if I could, I would leave today. Right? So I said to her, but wait a minute, you can leave today.
Right.
Right?
There's some consequences to that, but you could.
Right.
Right. So, but that's the moment when we're considering our choices, we are operating off of choices that we perceive as being available to us. And those perceived choices are often influenced by things that, we're totally unaware of. So the purpose is not to eliminate personal responsibility. In fact, ultimately, it brings us back to it. Because once I become aware of what has influenced me, the question becomes, what am I going to do with that awareness? So that's why, when I think of the 3 books, I describe them this way. Book 1 asks how we handle conflict. Book 2 asks how we show up inside conflict. And book 3 asks what shaped the person who is showing up. So the books don't simply change audiences.
Right.
Inquiry keeps moving deeper.
It's continuing.
It involves you.
Yes.
I love how you thought that out, man. That is just amazing, because I'm like, all right, where I sign up to get my books, because we need to get it. You need to go ahead and tell everybody the website where they need to go to get these books, brother.
Yeah. So our website is momentsToMaster.com. momentsToMaster. momentsToMaster.com. And you go to the website and basically you find out everything about the organization, what it is that we are actually working on, what we're working towards. If you're interested in information on speaking engagements, anything as it relates to this framework, that's the place.
Okay. momentsToMaster.com.
Yep.
And the latest, or the
All
first
3.
book is Mastering the ABCs of Conflict Resolution.
Yes.
And what are the other 2 books?
The first 2 books are both Mastering the ABCs of Conflict Resolution. The only difference is the subtitle.
Okay.
The first one is Practical Tools. I'm sorry. The first one is Practical Tools. Second one, Empowering today's youth, parents, and community leaders.
All right.
The second one is Practical Tools for Adults in Relationships, Work, and Life. And the third, of course, is Beyond Outcomes, which deals with the forces behind the choices that define us.
The forces behind the choices.
T-shirt.
Right?
Yes.
Tell us about Mastering Your Moments Institute.
Yes. So, man, you talk about something that I'm really excited about.
Mm-hmm.
The vision, the long-term vision is, and how this plays out, what it looks like in the final delivery of it is still to be determined. But for me, I envision a place, a location where youth, adults, families are able to come and we explore conflict.
And so it's a place where you can go for conflict resolution. That's the vision?
Yeah. So, well, not for conflict resolution so much itself, but it's where the Mastering Your Moments, where the framework can become structured learning, leadership development, training, and institutional application.
Okay.
Rather than remaining primarily a body of written thought, right? So that makes it different from the books themselves, right? The books develop and communicate the intellectual framework, which is great. And, I'm going to continue writing. But the Institute provides an organized vehicle through which people and organizations can learn, practice, and potentially become equipped to apply the framework.
Okay.
And so that's the long-term vision. And what that actually looks like or translates into is still something to be determined. I think that as I get opportunities to go into schools and work with kids and talk to their parents and work with them, as I have opportunities to interact with leaders, including many of our political leaders.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Your vision is that the Institute would be open to young people, to schools, government. Is that nonprofits?
And and nonprofits. I mean, you name it, right? And it'll really just be about better equipping us in terms of our human interaction. Conflict resolution when I started writing the first book, yes, conflict resolution, and without a doubt. But within that, or what that all of it really drills down to, is intentional decision making, understanding emotional intelligence, and being able to interact in a way that is productive and takes into consideration a full-fledged respect, really not just for others, but really as part of the understanding of who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
The better we become at that, I think we'll see results where, not that conflict is not going to happen, because once you have people, there's going to be conflict. But the way we approach it will be different.
And emotional intelligence, I'm seeing a lot of young people who just cannot self-regulate. And I'm thinking that piece, the emotional intelligence, is missing for a lot of folks who are 40 and under, I would say. And all right, Kat, what's that face?
It's all ages, in my opinion.
But I'm seeing it more. Well, you know what, though, Kat, since you don't tell your age, but I think we're somewhere around the same age. I'm just guesstimating.
28 plus or minus.
So, but we were taught, right, to act right. Like that's what was drilled into us. Don't go here and embarrass me.
Right.
Don't get in. Don't act ugly. Like these are things that we heard growing up, right?
That's that trauma he was talking about, though.
Because Karen, my thing.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. My thing would be, when our parents were telling us that, why?
Oh,
what is it that they were trying to protect themselves from, right? Because if I say to you, don't you go in there and embarrass me, am I saying don't embarrass yourself? Am I saying that your actions, even though they may be age appropriate for you, for me, they're going to embarrass me because my expectations of how you should present fit this particular narrative? And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that the emotional intelligence piece that our children have learned, they've learned from their parents in many cases. So the deficits in emotional intelligence are really among the adult population on serious levels.
Yeah.
Because who really talked to us about that in those terms, using that language?
When I think about that, and I fully understand that when I hear it and I say it, that our parents told us that because it was a matter of self-preservation, because they were of a generation that if they looked at someone a certain way, that was a different hue, right? If they looked them in the eye, if they did not move over a certain way when they're on the sidewalk, that if they went to a certain place, that it literally could have cost them their life. So I understand that my parent telling me when they're born in the 30s and 40s and telling me, you better go in here and you act right, because they were in a time, even as adults, that if they went someplace, they could not show up who they authentically were, because it literally could have cost them their life.
Their choices were removed. They had limited choices. Whereas today we have a lot more. So I get exactly what you're saying, Karen.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I agree. But you just said something, Kat. Today, those choices and the availability of those choices look different, right? Yeah. So if I'm still showing up the way that parent showed up, under a different set of circumstances, am I showing up properly in current day? Or am I mirroring that same response in today's time? I'm not saying it's wrong, but those are the kinds of discussions that, especially as adults and as parents, we got to be willing to have. Like, why do I make the choices that I make? What's really at the moment, the driver in that choice? And that's not always an easy thing to face, especially as you alluded to. I mean, you're talking about things that in many cases that could have cost somebody their life, right? And so, you know, to how do you transition from that way of thinking to one where you no longer have to think that way, right? I mean, that's like, you know, when I'm driving down 124, I'm never thinking, oh man, if the police pull me over, there's a good possibility that I may just get shot. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't happen. But
I know what you're saying.
I'm not operating with that same. Now, there's certain places I'm driving where I'll be that. But the point is that, you know, when you're facing, or when you know, based on the circumstances that have been foundational for you, the way that you're going to, how do you change from that, right? And then how do you teach the person coming after you who doesn't have that same reality about how they're supposed to respond? So emotional intelligence ends up looking very different.
Yes, it does.
Our parents, then it looks for us, then it looks for our children, then it'll look for their children.
Even in leadership roles, because John, you know how we met, you know, through the volunteerism, you know, that was a part of my therapy to help me, you know, evolve and transition. And our interactions wasn't pleasant, and it was because of my own trauma and how I perceived men.
Yes.
So we went through that, and then now we like sister and brother, you know.
Absolutely.
And so I get like, it's clicking for me, and I thank you for taking on this, because so many of us need to actually go in, and some of us can't afford therapy, but this is actually what it is. You're able to sit back and say, why am I angry with this person? What experiences, exposures, environment shaped the way that I think and perceive things? Because that's how you navigate this world. If you've been robbed with somebody that was a polka dot stripe, zebra slash elephant, whatever, you're going to be paranoid with stripes, polka dot, zebra, you know, and then every time that comes around, you're going to react that way. And if you're not aware, conscious of it, and taking accountability to say, do I really want to change? Is this how I want to show up to the rest of the world? And I know so many people who grew up that was just, we say hard, right? Say, oh, you tough. Something made you that way. You understand? And now you abrasive, you rigid. Every time somebody says something to you, you know what I'm saying? That's why something
ready to fight.
Yeah, like if you from a certain demographic, people automatically want to. I'm like, yeah, just because I'm from Detroit, don't like. We not like that. I'm not going to walk into the narrative that you creating for me that I've worked so hard to get out of. You're not about to put me back in that box.
Right.
So you do have to be intentional. But this program that you created, I pray for you, brother, that it gets into the hands of government and school systems and everywhere that it needs to be at, because if we don't, it needs to start everywhere. Like, start now. Meet people where they are right now. Of course, comment with these young folks, but even in government, people get elected and re-elected and change hands. People lose jobs, get jobs.
Right.
You got all these different personalities, and people have these pent up issues and all this stuff. And people need to learn how to work together so you can move forward with the cause. In the military, we got an objective. I don't care how you like each other, we got an objective, and we got to work together to get it done. But that doesn't necessarily mean we have the proper tools. We're just doing it because we gotta go, we gotta just move. You gotta get past it, you gotta get through it. But that doesn't mean you actually addressed the root cause of some of your hang-ups and pin-ups. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I thank you for the work that you're doing, because I see it right now. Like, man, it's like the light bulbs are going off for me. And I think, and I see it now being in a lot of government.
Can I just mention something? I mean, I
think absolutely.
One of the things, that I always say, and even in talking with individuals, what about situations where the other person really is wrong? I mean, because oftentimes they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody, we were talking earlier about the young person that was going through the bullying, but we can graduate that to adults that have dealt with all manner of issues. Sometimes somebody did disrespect you. Sometimes someone did violate you. Sometimes a boundary was crossed. Awareness does not require pretending otherwise, right? And empathy doesn't mean abandoning accountability. So one of the principles I think is important is that accountability and understanding are not opposites. I can try to understand what influenced someone's behavior and still hold them accountable for that behavior.
Absolutely.
I can recognize that somebody else's choices or someone else's choice was wrong without allowing their poor choice to automatically determine mine.
Mm-hmm.
The question still becomes, and this is kind of institute stuff. What choice best serves what needs to happen next? And sometimes that means reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it means a different conversation. Sometimes it means a boundary. Sometimes it means consequences. Sometimes it means distance, right? Conflict resolution doesn't always mean everybody walks away agreeing or reconciled, right? That's another one of those misnomers, right? That it's not about
conflict resolution may be that we just gonna leave each other alone.
No.
We agree to disagree.
Well, not even agree to disagree. The bottom line is I've got to guard myself for what I do next. And so in acknowledging what you did, one of the things that I have to decide is what happens between you and I.
Yeah. And
that easily I just can't be around you.
Absolutely.
But wait, what if you can't get away? What if it's your job, your boss, and all that? I know this is probably gonna be part 2. How do you handle that?
You can always get away.
I love the idea of part 2, but listen, you can always get away. Now, like
that job ain't the only job.
I was talking to this young lady, and we were, she was talking about the 5 years that she has left. Right?
But wait, now let's be real. A lot of people can't walk off their jobs, y'all. Let's be real now.
No, you don't have to walk away. You can be strategic in how you leave.
And remember, every choice matters, right? Every moment matters. Every choice resonates. So the choice that I'm making is not without the understanding that the next 5 years in this role, I'm going to have to really suck salt through my teeth a whole lot because of whatever the variables are.
Yeah.
Right? So one choice could be that I leave, but the reality is, and it's a choice, But the reality is I cannot follow that choice. The choice that I have to intentionally make is that I'm staying, but I'm staying on purpose. I'm staying
to reach this goal.
I'm staying with the understanding, the goal of what's at the end of this. And guess what? When that 5-year, whatever that period is, that's up, I'm out the door. Now, if it's a situation like Karen was alluding to, where it's just about, well, I've just got to be more in, because you have some people, right, that when it comes to jobs, they complain about the job, but they don't really want to put the intentional effort into finding a new job, right? It's almost like, the dog on the nail, right? The dog's laying on the nail and howling and making all this noise, but the dog just refuses to get up off the nail and look for another spot to lay down. You have to be intentional when it comes to things like that. If it's that I need to find another job, then I need to be intentional about finding another job. Does that mean I'm going to find another job in a month, a week, a year, and everything's going to be okay? There's no guarantee in that. But the choice that I am making is intentional. So therefore, the stuff that's happening is just life. I mean, if you ever had a job where you didn't like your boss?
Yes.
My boss.
Look at that.
Good for you.
The three of us have never worked in the same place, but we all can agree that we've had to work with or for someone that we didn't like.
Correct.
Which tells me that the rain falls on the just and the unjust.
Yes.
There are no, Hindus or gimmies. You don't get to skate through just because. No, we got to deal with hard stuff, things that happen. Life can be more chaotic oftentimes than it is orderly. Yeah. And so being intentional about my choices, about my decisions.
There are always choices. Some are more pleasant than others, but understanding that if I'm going to stay in this place, then I need to find some ways that I'm going to be able to cope with being here for whatever that period of time is that I need to be here.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Or what?
Or you bounce.
There you go.
Or you bounce. And I've done that. And I've done that as an adult. I've done it. Because
and didn't look back, hit the road.
And didn't look back. In one instance, it was a place where I would have loved to have made my career. I really did. But the working conditions under this boss became such that I was getting up in the morning crying before going to work.
Right.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't.
Mental health. Yeah. Man.
I can't do this because I'm gonna end up stroking out.
Right.
Got high blood pressure around that time too.
Wow.
It's like I can't do this. And I left that position without having another position because my mental health and my physical health were so important that I really felt like if I had stayed, that I would have had a physical decline.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad you made that choice and prioritize yourself, man. Amen. And big ups to people who have to make that choice because it's not an easy choice.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, I had a kid, a house, a car note.
Responsibilities,
I was grown.
But it's good that you prioritized your mental health and you know that that's one of our number one things. And John, with all the work that you do, how do you protect your mental health? Because we want to help silence the stigma with mental health. So help share your tools. What do you do to protect your mental health?
One thing I do is I stay in my lane. I am not all things to all people.
That's right.
And, even with the passion that I have for the work that I do, I'm very conscious of the fact that I cannot do everything. And so for me, it's really learning to write a lot down so that I can get it out of my head and in a place where it can stay. And that's whether it is in relationship to the work, in relationship to marriage, in relationship to family, in relationship to my other activities. I will write a lot down just so that I can get it out of my brain.
And onto the
and I know I can always go back to it. I can revisit it, maybe in a better place. That's one. The second thing for me is I'm okay with silence. I'm really more of an introvert than an extrovert by personality. I'm okay with silence. I'm okay with not saying a word and really just listening.
Okay.
Because again, every situation that comes up does not require my input. It doesn't, because guess what? The minute that you start talking about it, now there's some ownership that goes with that. And now I'm carrying this thing around along with everything else that I'm dealing with. Right. And the third thing is, because within everything that I'm doing, the books, the work, I'm a student too. So I have to be willing to challenge myself on why I do what I do and be honest with myself about why I do what I do, why I did what I did. Because otherwise there's no sense of accountability and it reduces the likelihood that I'm actually ever going to be able to evolve from that space. I said that was the last one. Here's the other one. I'm not afraid to talk to somebody.
Okay. Amen. Yes.
Love that. Love that. Love that.
Listen, I'm good with, I want to come to your office and lay on the couch and let it out.
Yeah.
I'm big on, cognitive behavioral therapy and psychotherapy when it's needed. I mean, I think that too many of us don't take it serious, right? How we've been shaped and how trauma has affected us, what it's created in us, and we bring that unresolved stuff in our lives into the workplace, into relationships,
into parenting.
Yep, into our quote unquote community activities and involvement, and we're not showing up the best that we can. So for me, it's generally going to fall into one of those categories. But my peace is my mental peace, my mental health is. I'm not trading it for anything.
I always say, if you costing me my peace, you too expensive. T-shirt.
Yes. Yes.
We know Kim.
Yeah. Like absolutely. John Harris, aka Brother Baruti, can be reached at momentstomaster.com. Look for his 3 books. Give us the names again: Mastering the ABCs of Conflict Resolution, and the 2 subtitles.
Yep, Mastering the ABCs of Conflict Resolution, Empowering Today's Youth, Parents, and Community Leaders. Mastering the ABCs of Conflict Resolution, a guide for adults in work, life, and relationships, and then beyond outcomes, the hidden meanings behind the choices that define us. But I really welcome people to visit the site and let's talk about it, because there's work to be done, and together we'll get it done.
Yes. John Harris, Brother Baruti, leadership strategist, author, speaker, conflict resolution facilitator.
All of that rolled up into one, and so much more.
Karen.
John, like we love having this conversation.
Check the pool. Look.
That's a block. This, as always, we enjoyed having you. To our listeners, we want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat.
Yes, well, we are impacting the world one conversation at a time.
Remember, you are a part of the conversation.
Yes.